Hi guys, this is Rahul here, and for those of you who don't know me, I appeared for CAT in 2019 and ZAT in 2020, and I secured 99 plus scores in both the exams. And this video logging is all about my experiences with the CAT exam, and through various conversations that I will be having throughout this series with a lot of toppers and other achievers in the sphere of MBA. And today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Anik Ganguly. He appeared for CAT in 2016 and he secured 99.15. But well, he wasn't satisfied with that score and he went on to give CAT once again in 2017. This time he scored 99.94 and he went on to study at the prestigious IIM Ahmadabad. Right now he is a consultant at Bain and Company, and today we are going to have a wonderful conversation with him. So I think that's enough chit chat from my end. Let's get into the conversation with Anik Ganguly. So hi Anik, welcome to the channel.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for having me on the channel.
Yeah. So we can start off by you sharing some of your experiences back in IIM Ahmadabad.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So it's been quite an interesting experience. So I'll just start from the beginning. So it's very intimidating at first when you actually enter that classroom and you have 90 students in one classroom, so classrooms, and you have 90 students in your section, and all of them have been topper achievers and whatnot, right? So and it's pretty intimidating in the beginning. The first 1 month you're just kind of dealing with everything that is thrown at you, be it the numerous quizzes, the different assignments, and just managing time. I think that is what hits you initially, but I think you just ramp up and you realize that there's gonna be more and more which is thrown at you every single day, and you just learn to deal with it. You just learn to pick up stuff quickly, finish off stuff so you can deal with the next thing which again you need to face. So I think you become very productive. Your time management kind of changes. You know that this is 1 or 2 hours which I have to myself. Let's utilize it, because after that I need to do XYZ, right? So and you're very strict with the time you allocate to different things.
Yes. So I'm just cutting you off for a second. We'll get into the productivity part later.
Yeah.
As we go on with this discussion. But as I understand it, that you had cracked CAT before the year that you actually went to IIM Ahmadabad. You had cracked previously also, and you had got admissions from other IIMs, the other top IIMs as well, apart from the other institutes.
Yeah.
So what led you to decide that IIM Ahmadabad is actually worth spending one more year, or how sure were you that you would be able to get into the top grail of MBA colleges? What led to that decision?
Yeah. So my first attempt, I didn't get into an IIM. I had gotten admits from SPJN and XLRI,
Okay.
right? And so while my parents were pretty sure that I should join XLRI, I think very deep down I knew that I could probably do better. Not that XLRI is not an amazing college. I just knew that probably I have a shot at IIM ABC. The only reason being, so I got shortlists which people at my percentile wouldn't have got, right? So I scored a 99.15 percentile, and normally you don't get an IIM Bangalore shortlist at such a low percentile. But I managed to get one, right? And I think that kind of gave me the boost that this is possible. And I was in no hurry to join a B school because I already had a job offer from ITC, and I knew that that is kind of a firm which kind of helps you with all of this, and it's well regarded. That's the message I had got from my peer group who were joining the B school that year, or who had I also had friends who were 1 year into IIM Ahmadabad, IIM Bangalore. So I kind of knew where I stood. So hence I realized that there's nothing wrong in giving another try and actually putting in a much more focused effort, working hard at things which you probably lacked in the first attempt. So
Right.
I think that was my thought process.
All right. So, Anik, from what I understand, is that you did your summer internship from a consulting firm, Bain and Company,
Yeah,
one of the top consultancy firms, and you
yeah,
are also going to join Bain as a full-time employee. So, what
yeah.
our viewers would be interested in knowing is what does a typical day in the life of a consultant look like, and what is basically consultancy, and what are the skills required for one to become a consultant?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, uh, so I think what a consultant basically does is provides an outside view into what the company is doing, right? And by an outside view, I mean an objective viewpoint. So, why consultants are required is because a company is, is busy working in the day to day, right? And they're very involved in what they're doing, and they are good at what they do. However, what they lack is somebody who can come in from outside, uh, talk to them about the best practices which are followed in different industries in their peer companies, and look at problems objectively and how do they solve, or better their performance, improve certain things, etc. That is what the profession is about. uh, Coming to your second question about what is a daily life of a consultant, right? I think a daily life would be mainly characterized by meetings. So it's 50% meetings and the rest would be your work. So the first part to it is to basically understand the problem. Unless you do that, there's no point in you just starting with the analysis, or doing a lot of excel crunching, a lot of analysis, a lot of problem solving. You can't unless you know the problem. So I think that's the first part, where you sit with the stakeholders, you kind of understand, you kind of synthesize the problem, and you get a lot of feedback from them is on the fact that is your understanding of the problem correct, right? And so the one thing which, if you talk to any consultant, is they won't tell you that they are the best at what they do. They are not the best at understanding and solving all problems. Ultimately, you would need to work with your stakeholders and enable them to solve problems, right? So that is what a majority of the part goes into, talking to your client, understanding what they do, how they do it, and then finding out the loopholes, what can you improve. And then you go back, and then you analyze, you do a lot of research, you do a lot of secondary work, where you look at comparables, you look at industry reports, you just understand the entire thing, how does it work, the entire value chain, and then you come up with different recommendations, different loopholes which you identified, right? And I think that is what a consultant typically does. So my experience was pretty hectic, I would say. But once you look back, once you I think take a bird's eye view, you find that you've learned a lot, you've experienced a lot, and you've kind of also added a lot of value which you probably wouldn't have done in other career choices, right? So in I would say no other career would you probably be talking to the heads of a company. So just to give you a glimpse of it, so there was this one meeting where I was sitting with the CMO, then this is the chief marketing officer of the entire global firm, right? And the chief of operations, yeah, and the chief of operations, and who was from Bosnia. So right, so and we are sitting in this meeting, the partner, the principal, the case team leader, and me, and we were having a discussion, and this was not a discussion where I was supposed to be completely silent. This was a discussion where I was actively pitching in, and with a few points I was allowed to speak, in fact. And trust me, that's a big thing when you're in a room with these people. Just listening to how they approach problems, just listening to how they solve, and what is their thought process, I think you learn a lot. There's a lot to gain. So I think that would be my takeaway from consulting.
So, Anik, in the first answer, you talked about being productive and organized, and it sort of is helpful. And yes, it sort of resonates a lot with the viewers of this channel who would probably be CAT 2020 aspirants and also people from these schools. who have a lot on their plate and need to be more organized to get stuff done. So what would your advice be, and could you just elaborate on your process, how you go about organizing your day?
Yeah. So I think three things. Number one would be making a list of things which you want to actually get done the next day. The second would be prioritizing them according to what is more important, what is less important. And the third would be keeping in an optimal amount of buffer, so which is also very important. So I'll come to them point by point. So the first thing is, if you think that you will achieve XYZ without making an actual commitment, without writing down somewhere, trust me, 99% of the times you will not end up achieving it, or you will not end up finishing your goals. So it's very essential that you write down so that you make a tangible commitment. So it's not something which you have just thought of in your head and can modify at any point of time, right? So the next part is prioritizing. So there are, you might have two kinds of work. One is something which is routine, something which is easy to do but it is very taxing, as in you hate doing it. And the second is something which requires a lot of thinking, which is very tough to do, which is something you will not probably able to achieve without spending some amount of time. So I would advise that, depending on your ability, is to solve the tough things in the beginning of the day, because that is when you are at your freshest. At least that is how it works for me, because when I wake up in the morning I am fresh, so I can solve something which will require a lot of mental capacity, and I'll solve that. And then I'll pick up the routine stuff. The routine stuff is basically something which is basic drudgery. Say you want to type out an email which will not take up a lot of your mental capacity. And the third, which is the most important part, is putting in a buffer. So what a buffer does is, so basically, if you think you need 2 hours to do something, trust me, you'll end up needing 2.5 hours to 3 hours. That is if you're very efficient. So always account for that buffer when you are planning, when you're making plans. Because if you think you'll need 2 hours to do something, and if you think that you'll be super efficient and you'll achieve it in 1.5 hours, trust me, you'll never end up doing it. You'll just have more on your plate, and you'll not even achieve 50% of what you've planned for the day. So I think that is very important.
Cool. Okay. So one additional question that I wanted to ask beyond that productive thing is that, do you use any app or any other productivity tool to sort of help you manage your time, or is that you do it pen and paper?
Not really. So I just use OneNote. I think OneNote is amazing to just form bullet points, check notes, or anything and everything which you want to write down. So I just I have a sheet in OneNote where I just form a checkbox, and I just write down XYZ. These are the things I need to do. Once I do that, I just put a tick mark to it. I think that is what helps me.
So Anik, as I understand, you have been in self-study to prepare for the CAT exam, and you have done it for 2 consecutive years, as I understand it. And what would your advice be to people, who are involved in self-study and not taking help from any mentor as such?
Well, okay. So mine is a kind of a different scenario. So I had given the exam earlier, right? So I had some a base point of which I was basing my preparation the next year. So that aside, I think you can't do an exam like this, or you can't do something like this without mentorship or without a strong peer group, right? So you can't just do this by self-study. That is not possible. So by that I don't mean you need to join a tuition, or you need to join a coaching session where you'll actually go to a class and you'll do it. By a peer group, I mean, so there are a number of forums, right, like Pagal Guy, and you have WhatsApp groups, and you form a close-knit group of friends who kind of motivate you. That is what I mean by a peer group, right? And I had the privilege of having that. So I early on, so in my earlier preparation, I had realized how important Pagal Guy is. So, and hence I actively, started from the first mock test I gave. I was actively involved in Pagal Guy, in the discussions there, in the doubt solvings and everything there. And I had formed a very close group of friends, around 10, 11 people, and we made a WhatsApp group. I think that was very essential, because we would, bounce our mock test scores over each other, and we had a sheet where we used to track each other's scores, and I think that uh, led to a very healthy competition. And all of us, in fact, nearly all of us, ended up in the B schools of our choice. So that is the first part. The second part to self study is, again, dedication, because if you are not motivated, I don't think self study would work. So you need to be intrinsically motivated. uh, and again, so that leads to you making timetables, you making schedules, you not compromising on the number of mocks you give just because you're tired, or just because you don't want to. So that requires a lot of sacrifices as well. So just to give you a glimpse into my routine, so I had to go to work at 9, and I used to come back by 7 o'clock, right? And so I realized that I am a morning person, right? I'm not a person who can come back at 7 after a full day of work and then end up giving a mock. And my entire strategy for CAT 2017 was mocks, right? So I gave 50 plus mocks, and that was my only preparation. I used to give mocks, analyze them. I used to, again, repeat the entire process. So hence what I realized is I need to wake up in the morning, because if I don't, then there's no way CAT 2017 is happening. So I used to wake up at 4 o'clock, and I used to start giving a mock from 5, right? So 5 to 8 I would give a mock. No analysis post that, just get ready, get fresh, forget about the mock, go for work, come back, and then look at the analysis, right? So I used to give 2 mocks a week, at least minimum one to two mocks a week, and the rest of the days, even the days when I was not giving a mock, then I could wake up early and just analyze, or spend the evening analyzing it. So I think that was my routine. So you need to actually drill down and form a routine, otherwise self study is not actually going to work.
So basically, to understand, motivation is extremely important. It's how much you want something that leads to other things like
Yeah.
being productive and everything else. And also, you talked about peer group, right? So uh, I understand peer group was very essential for you to, go ahead and get the score in CAT that everybody wants to get. And then
Yeah.
also, as I understand, is it must have helped you in the MBA college in IIM Ahmadabad, where
Yeah. Yeah.
what I have heard is peer group matters a lot. So could you just throw some
Yeah.
light on that?
Yeah. So people often ask me this question, why do you actually end up paying 23 lakhs? Uh, you know, you could just do courses of Coursera, you could just do courses anywhere else, and you would learn, the same things which are taught in B school. And I would completely agree with the second point. Actually, you can just by self study, or just by normal study, you can actually learn a lot, and you actually don't need a B school for that. But the thing which separates such study from an environment where you are with the best, with people around you who have been top achievers with diverse viewpoints, is, I think, what separates such learning from a learning in a B school classroom. uh, because, so like I said initially, right? So you are in a classroom with 90 people, with 95 people actually in my classroom, and you spend a year with them, right? And there's a huge part uh, of your grading scheme which is called CP, which is class participation, right? And there were courses in which we had up to 30%, up to 50% CP, right? And you are expected to contribute in a class. So the first question which the professor on day one asked us is, who are you? And no, your answer is not that I am Anik Ganguly. I'm from Kolkata, and I have got XX percentile, or I have done this, that, and now I'm here in the college. Your answer is, I am the protagonist of the case that I'm reading. And that is and that is who you are supposed to be. You are supposed to analyze cases from the point of view of being an actual stakeholder in that case, and that is what everybody else in the classroom is expected to be. So that is the kind of opinions which you bring into the classroom. So there are actual debates which go on, should this person reduce cost, how should this person enter the market, should he actually go door to door, or should he use influencer based marketing, or should he just roll out everything in bulk. So how do you actually deal with stuff. So there are different debates which happen. There are different debates which happen outside the classroom as well. So at night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you go for a tea, and you have a debate about which is the best stock to invest on. And you're not just me being an engineer, I'm not discussing this with another engineering, I'm discussing this with a CA who probably manages a 2 lakh plus portfolio, and who has done this for 3 years. So that's the kind of diversity which you have, and that is why you pay the big bucks to actually go to such a college. I think that's what peer group actually plays. That's what the role of peer group is.
That's pretty insightful. So, Anik, coming to our final question, and this is, I think, something that everybody is a little apprehensive about. So, what is
Yeah.
your assessment of the job market in the near term, especially for MBA aspirants who would want to join a college this year or are, for example, appearing for CAT 2020? What are the things that they should keep in mind before making a decision?
Okay. So, uh, see, I would be lying if I told you that everything is rosy and there's a huge scope and everything will be as good as before, because I don't think any company would have so much clarity. In the short term, yes, I agree that things would be tough. Yes. So I think there are two or three lenses to look at this thing. So for me, I would probably look at it from three lenses. One is the financial aspect, the second would be your knowledge, and the third would be the brand value, right? So from a financial aspect, if say you are this person who is already earning a lot, if you have a 15 LPA job or 20 LPA job, or somebody who is very comfortable in the job which you are, I would the suggestion I would probably give to you is to probably defer and see, and to wait it out a bit, because we still don't know how it will play out. Because I just think that these are the initial months, and we're still waiting for a vaccine, and unless everything is well and good, I don't see the economy booming as of now, right? So right. But whereas if you're just starting out, if you're a fresher, you don't have a very lucrative job, or if you just want to make a shift, right? So I think then the financial motivation is kind of different, because either way, if you pass out from a top tier B school, I don't think you would have a lack of jobs. Probably the if you talk to alums from 2009 batch, or people who graduated during those busts, during those times when the market had failed, you would realize that salaries and all, there was a decline in, you would not get those high paying salaries, and there would be a decline. But all of those alums, all of those people who survived those times did amazingly well, and so you wouldn't have a loss in the long term, right? So that is from the financial point of view. From the knowledge point of view, see, I don't think you would lack anything. Like the kind of knowledge you would gain from a 2 year or from a 1 year MBA would remain the same. In fact, you would probably get an enhanced knowledge, because professors would probably cover how to handle crisis like the COVID, right? If something like this happened in the future, how do you actually manage this, manage something like this better, right? So I think from a knowledge point of view, you would have no problem. Even from a growth point of view, see the brand name, which is an IIM or an XLRI, or be it a top tier B school, would always remain the same, right? If you graduate from an IIM Ahmadabad, it's always an IIM Ahmadabad, right? And it will remain that for the next whatever number of years. So from a growth point of view, I also don't see a I don't see any downside. So, but it's very important to actually temper your expectations when you are joining a B school in such a scenario. You should not, go in expecting that, I will graduate at the end of 2 years and I'll get 1 crore. So I think it's very important to temper your expectations, and as and when how the scenario pans out, you scale up your expectations or you plan accordingly. I think that's important.
That's great. So, Anik, one last question, sort of a bonus question that I would like to ask is that I received, after I did a live video in Facebook, I received a lot of queries about reading habits, and it's something that I stressed on,
Yeah.
which I also collected from you as when I was preparing for my cat. So,
Yeah.
would you like sort of throw light on why reading is so important and what's your process in reading more?
Yeah. So, uh, okay. So reading is very important, firstly, but it's not the same for everybody, right? So few people like reading, few people don't, and it depends on how you ultimately gain your knowledge or gain your wisdom. So reading might be a mode for you. Watching documentaries or watching visually appealing things might be a mode for you. So it's again it's not a blanket statement that reading is amazing. For me. I was an avid reader. I stopped reading, when I was in class 11, 12 for obvious reasons, and I never picked it up in my undergrad. I started it before my B school preparation again when I started reading the newspaper, right? I think what reading does, so uh, I'll talk about different things that you read, but say you read a newspaper, right? And I think what it does is it gives you a diverse viewpoint. It gives you a viewpoint regarding each and everything which is happening, right? And if you expand it to say reading 2 or 3 newspapers, I had a friend in my section in IIM Ahmadabad who used to read 4 newspapers a day, and just when you talk to him, you notice the diverse viewpoints that he has. So he will know each and everything which is happening in the world, and he can speak for 5 to 10 minutes regarding it. So you realize that you can have any conversation if you are actually adept and with each and everything that is happening around you, right? You can hold a conversation, and I think that is very important, because when you're in any scenario with any unknown person, you can actually strike a conversation and you can hold it. I think that is what is important, rather than just doing small talk like how's the weather today and something like that. So that is newspapers. Reading books, reading fiction, reading non-fiction, I think that helps you make inroads into stuff which you didn't know, into stuff which inspires you. And I think then you can kind of modify your reading list. So I used to read a lot of fiction. Strangely now, during this lockdown, I am only reading non-fiction and I'm kind of liking it. So I've read a lot of autobiographies. I'm recently reading a lot on investing, and I think it kind of helps in enhancing your knowledge base. So I think reading is something which will never go away. I mean, why not do something which expands your knowledge? I think that's the best investment you could make. So I would always encourage anybody and everybody to read.
Right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Anik, for being in this channel, and we wish you all the very best.
Much thanks for having me.
Well, honestly, I had a lot of fun making this video, and I got a lot of insights from Anik as well. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you want me to make more such videos in the future, please do subscribe. It helps keep the channel on. Thanks. See you in the next video. Bye bye.